Hey there, it's Kristen, and I wanted to introduce to you my deck of 120 questions. This is a deck that is a printable. You can find in my Ko-fi shop, and you can download it and print it out. As you can see here, I've actually printed mine on color paper. So I just found a bunch of different colors, and I printed each sheet on a different color. So there are 12 cards on each sheet. There's 10 sheets, and you can see it's just a very simple kind of design. It's really just words, and you can print this however you like. It's going to come black and white. Like I said, I'm printing it just on a regular kind of plain color paper, but you can see it kind of makes it look really nice when you can see all the different colors. You can see I've put them into a box here, so I think it just looks really pretty with all the different colors. And these are 120 questions. The questions are really what I would call kind of self-discovery questions. So these are questions that you could use just as journaling prompts if you like to just pull something, at random, something that randomizes questions for you. These can also be used for spreads, kind of like as card headers. I'll just kind of start going through them a little bit, just so you can really see some of the words, some of the questions. What am I sick and tired of? What is my role in my community? What am I moving towards? What do I fear most right now? What do I need to release right now? What needs cleaning up? What is the middle path? What am I reaching for? What is ending? How can I break old patterns? And then I have some that are what I call fill in the blank. So when in doubt, I can, and then you would pull a card, for example, or you could fill in the blank just with some journaling. To forgive myself, I must. To forgive others, I must. And then, like I said, if you use these with cards, you can just see what the card depicts. What does the card say that you need to do, for example, to forgive others? So these can be used in any way that you see fit. Let's just look at a few more. Just gonna grab some, and I did them as just little squares. I think they're a nice size. I tend to do a shuffle like this, kind of an overhand shuffle with them, so they're not too big and not too small. Let's just take a look at these. How can I get more done each day? What is my role in the world? What can I do to get unstuck? What is the first step to loving myself? How can I unburden my soul? How can I remove should from my vocabulary? Who am I attracting? How can I maximize my joy? What do I need to thrive? Where do I see myself in 3 years? What habit is helpful? What am I waiting for? What needs to change in my life? So I really tried to make these balanced in terms of, I always think about questions in terms of who, what, when, where, why, how. I think some of the best self-discovery questions, guidance questions are always like how. How can I change something? Some of the best discovery questions are who, like who am I becoming? So I've kind of tried to keep it pretty balanced in terms of the types of questions. Let's look at these. And in terms of guidance, in terms of of kind of understanding who you are. What can I do to be heard? How can I deepen my self-care? Am I going with the flow? Am I creating order or chaos? What can I do to be seen? What challenge requires action now? What's holding me back from happiness? What can I offer? So I'm hoping that you will see a use for these cards in your life. Again, I think they're really great. I'm just going to pull a couple of them. And just kind of showing you how you might do a quick reading. Now, I will say for me, everything is a message. So even if you are using these as cards with cards, you know, as opposed to just a journaling prompt, I think that the cards that come up for you are important. They're messages in and of themselves. So for example, if you have a daily card pull practice, you could just pull a question. That to me is saying, this is a question that you need to focus on today. Where am I doing too little? As opposed to where am I doing too much? There is another card that says that. There it is right there. So where am I doing too little? So for the day, you might be just looking at your life and seeing, you know, how is that showing up for you? So you don't always have to pull a response card to the question. I think many times the question is the answer. But let's say that we wanted to do that. Let's see. I'm going to use my Zen Oracle. This is a deck that is available to you on my Ko-fi page. It's actually in a post, and it is a free printable. It's really one of my favorite decks, and the bright colors, it's kind of colorful. I think it works well with this 120 deck of 120 questions, just because of the colors. I think they look really kind of nice together. So I could say, usually I shuffle this deck by shuffling it in parts because it's 80, I think it's 80 cards maybe? I can't remember. It's definitely over 70 cards. So you can focus on each of the questions, and then you can just pull a card to answer the question. As I said, I think there is magic and a message in the question itself if you pulled it at random. You can alternatively go through the deck and find a question that you really want to focus on. So let's say I want to look at this first question, which is, what do I want more of? Huh? That's interesting. More blood. That sounds very gruesome, like I'm a vampire or something. But it's funny because the blood issue has come up in a recent dream, a pretty recent dream. To me, the blood is about life energy, especially when it shows up in a dream. And in the dream, it was kind of showing that my life energy was being depleted. So I would look at this as more life energy, like more vitality, which could show up in terms of just joy and happiness and just kind of really enjoying life and not feeling quite as depleted and overworked and exhausted as I feel sometimes. So another question here is, where am I doing too much? Although that kind of gave me some insight right there on where am I doing too much. But if we focus on where am I doing too much? Too much. Bound. And I look at this one as being kind of like tightly wound. You see the way that the coils go. Bound is a card of restriction. So I'm just kind of looking at that as I'm doing too much in areas that are kind of having me tightly wound, and maybe instead of being kind of loose and free and going with the flow, things that require me to be too like overly concerned about how everything is going to go. That's how I always think about when I see this. It's like somebody who is uptight. So I would say I'm doing too much in areas that are creating restrictions and making me feel uptight as opposed to just kind of loose and free. And now the last card is what kind of spiritual practice would be helpful. Now, first of all, I just want to say, you saw me just pull these 3 cards. I wasn't thinking in particular. I was just kind of pulled out 3 cards. I didn't really do it random. I just kind of, these were 3 that were just stood up. But now you're kind of seeing how all of these are connected, or at least to me, there's a connection between all of these. About my energy, about doing too much and feeling too like tightly wound up about things. And now we're looking at what kind of spiritual practice would be helpful, which I think would be a good complement to these. Like it's a good response, or kind of looking towards guidance. Basically, what can I do about all of this? What kind of spiritual practice would be helpful? Lift. The first word that I thought of was uplifting, the kind of spiritual practice that is uplifting. I'm going to have to think about lift, though, because I feel like there might be even a literal message there about lift, some kind of spiritual practice that is maybe involves lifting. I don't know. But yeah, the first thought is just something that is uplifting, something, I see this as kind of like a person holding someone else up. So a spiritual practice that feels very supportive, where I can feel like I'm being supported or held up. So something to think about and to notice just in my life, as I move forward. I always try to pay attention to how these images and messages and these questions might be coming up in my life. So this is the deck of 120 questions. I think there's a question, in there for you. Like, I think there's plenty of questions. I wanted it to be 120 and not just like 30 or 40. But I also think there's so many different questions that there's a good diversity of different questions for you too. So I hope that you will enjoy the deck of 120 questions. It is, again, available for download in my Ko-fi shop.